Ladies and gentlemen, Cursor, Ask Me Anything. This is going to be your chance to talk to me about any questions you have about Cursor. I'm going to be talking about anything you want. So if you're a member, go ahead and drop in any questions you have, and we'll go ahead and answer them here on this stream. So basically, kind of what we're working with here is I should probably turn on my camera so you can kind of see me and see me that's going on here. I'm actually just getting started. And this is just going to be like a Sunday chill hangout stream where we're just going to be playing around with Cursor, and any questions that you may have, I'm basically just going to be able to answer them for you live. And so one of the things I thought I'd talk about is like agents and how they kind of work as well. Maybe doing some custom modes, which can be super helpful if you're thinking about using that a lot, if you haven't used it before. We can talk a little bit about some Git workflows. Maybe also talk about how, to configure things like background agents and like when to use them and maybe when not to use them. And I know a lot of people have some questions on the cost, so we can probably do some digging on some of that as well, because it's not really clear to me, and maybe clear to a lot of people in the community, what's really kind of happening as far as like, how much all this stuff really costs. So if you know someone who could benefit from this, definitely share this in those communities. I know certain people are in the Cursor communities. I'm going to do this live for probably about an hour and a half or so, and I'm just going to keep rolling with the energy that's kind of showing up in the stream. It's currently 8 o'clock here in Sunday Pacific time in California, so I welcome everyone who's been joining the stream so far. Mike D, good morning, who's also a member. Eddie, good morning as well. Is it basic, Cursor, or pro sub? I have a pro sub, so I just have the $20 a month sub, and that's basically the one that you can do some types of requests. I believe my request window has just rolled over, so I'm totally fresh. I have a lot of agent requests that I could do for now, like 200 something Sonnet requests. So we're going to definitely be cooking with that. Good morning to Ryan as well. Welcome, you guys. Thank you for joining in on the stream. My second camera should now be working, so we should be pretty good live. And so I just thought we'd kind of get into it. Also, shout outs to Maddie Jure as well. Welcome for joining the stream. So as of now, last time what we were trying to do was yesterday's stream, I was actually trying to integrate a feature, and we were trying out the new Kimi K2 instruct, as you can kind of see here below. I like pointing. This is going to be my new meme, by the way. I'm going to literally show up to these places like in cafes, and I'm just going to be pointing like this, like randomly live. And so you'll kind of know that this is kind of my thing now, where I'm just going to be like, I'm also going to do like the perspective thing where I'm just going to pinch at things too. So it's going to be kind of fun. But a side note from that, let's see. We tried the Kimi K2 instruct, and I haven't seen any updates yet. I've submitted this bug to the Cursor team. And so hopefully they can kind of fix this, because the response are kind of janky, low key. And so that's kind of what's going on there. But I did submit some background requests. So I just went to the very top and copied everything from here. And then just, if you hit this little cloud icon, this allows you to submit a request for a background agent. And so the way the background agent works is Cursor has its own environment in which they can kick off your code. And because it's connected to GitHub, you're able to kind of do that type of integration with these background agents. And the background agent cost is just going to be whatever the token cost is for the maxed model. So in the background agents in Cursor, you can actually select different models. So if you select this here, there's a little plus, which means you can actually run multiple requests of these in parallel, which is pretty awesome. And so you can actually select any one of these models that you can basically run in max mode, I believe. They have some recommended models, which probably mean that there's a lot of consistency in their output. And as you see in here, Kimi K2 is in here, but it's not recommended. And we can probably see why, because in my local version, it doesn't do that thing. Just as a FYI, you're probably going to benefit most if you're running background agents for models that are able to do a lot of tool calling and a lot of sequential thinking. And so I'll show you one of these requests in which we got a lot of benefit from that, just from doing that type of thing. So these are the models you can select here, and you'll see them going across. So as soon as you type in whatever you want, it's going to kick off all of them at the same time. So I also want you to be aware that this is a possible, money burn, if you know what I mean. And it's a money burn because each single one is going to run in its own little environment. And so I kicked off an Opus one. And I don't know if you know about Claude Opus, but that's $15 for the input per million tokens and $75 per million token output. That is crazy. But y'all are worth it. And we did this. And so that's kind of what we're working with here. That was just one of the requests. We did Claude Sonnet 4. We did Gemini 2.5 Pro. And we also did O3. So all of these kicked off in the background. And you'll actually see them here in the way that you do them. There's another way to configure them so that you can actually take a look. I'm going to close that for now. There is a configuration here. I think here in our settings, if you go to beta, it'll say background agents. There is a setting here. Oh, in background agents that you can have a hovering agent over sidebar. So I like this, but you can turn this off if that's kind of annoying for you. So what I would do is I would bring my mouse over this way and it would show up. Otherwise, you'd have to reveal it with a command. So if I turn it on, you can kind of now see that it starts to pop over. And so in this pop over, it's Command Shift S. And so that basically just Command Shift S would just pop it over like that. Kind of, if you know what I mean. But I just like to hover over it and it's just easier for me to access. And you can see what cursor agents are currently running. So the way that they split them up is by agents that are running locally, which are grouped up here. Things that are ready to review. So these are the ones that I kicked off last night that were ready to review. And then these are the ones that have already previously run and that I have already reviewed down here. And then as the ones that are kicked off, they're going to be waiting. So yeah, that's kind of like background agents in a quick nutshell. Big shout outs to Bilal. Welcome to the stream. Also, my question would be, let's suppose I use a CLI coder, Claude Code Gemini. How could I see the same way that diffs, I'd like to be able to view it in cursor diffs. So whenever you're working with Claude Code, for example here, whenever like you can actually click, it says run Claude Code inside of the IDE, or if you run it in the terminal. And then for some reason, my Claude Code is not really loading up. Let me see if I can do this here. Claude. Bruh. My computer is probably melting down. Dang, what's going on with my computer? Activity monitor. Oh, I just got too much heat right now. Let's see. I don't know if you know, but I have 128 gigs of RAM on my machine. I'm like live streaming to all these different locations and I've used up 100 gigs. Damn. Oh, wow. Look at this. Cursor is eating up a ton of memory. That's a massive memory leak. Oh, wow. I'm like debugging this live on the stream, but why not? I don't work for Cursor, by the way. I'm just an engineer. Oh my God, look at this virtual memory. Massive. 1.5 terabytes of virtual memory. I think there's a file system bug leak. I know what's going on. I'm going to see if I can capture this and send this over to them. So the way I do this, so if you want to file a bug on macOS, the best way to do it is to run the following command. I'm just going to make sure. Yeah. Okay. So you could do sudo sysdiagnose, right? Hold on. I can't spell SYSDI. Yeah. So if you do sudo sysdiagnose, what's going to happen here, it's going to ask for your password to run as root. And this is just going to collect all the system information at this very moment in time. And this is extremely helpful if you're working on anything in the macOS operating system, that it'll basically kind of take a quick snapshot of your entire system, look at console logs and all these different types of things. You need to also install specific profiles if you want to get deeper information about specific parts of the system. So you don't really have to be worried that you're giving up like all kinds of privacy or anything like that. These are just literally like memory snapshots of various apps and states, which is very, very helpful if you are debugging these apps. This is just an Electron app. I think Cursor has its own debugging thing, but I want to give it to them as far as like what the system is. I think this bug was encountered, totally side note from everything else, by the way, but I think I enabled this bug because I accidentally opened a Cursor window into like my root folder, which is basically my username. And it asked for access to like, you know, hey, I want access to your iCloud Drive and a bunch of other things. So I forgot what I was doing. And I was trying to click no, and I think it hit yes. And I was like, oh no. So then like it just spun up forever. And I think that's still like in their memory for whatever reason. And I will have to describe that to them when I'm trying to debug. I don't remember my password. Okay, cool. I do remember my password. Sweet. Okay. So once I put in my password, I hit enter and it's going to run its thing. It'll save it to a file and then I'll basically zip it up and send it over to those folks so they can help me fix the bug. Okay, now we're back in business, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, you can kind of see my computer's just going badonkers right now. So I'm going to go ahead and quit Activity Monitor. I might have to relaunch Cursor so that I can get back to a working state and clear all that virtual memory, hopefully. Okay, so now that we're in Claude Code, kind of getting back to the question. So the question was like, how do we integrate Cursor with Claude Code so that I can see the diffs back and forth? So whenever you're running a command in Claude Code, basically, as the diff comes out, you can hit Option and you can click around in the thing. And in order for you to integrate it, before you do anything, you can do /IDE. And then you can say, enter, and then you can select the IDE. So if you're using Cursor, if you're using Windsurf, if you're using JetBrains, if you're using anything else, that by itself will basically allow you to, in essence, connect it all together so that you can view the diffs from Claude Code and back and forth. So the way that I do it is I tend to hide my agents if I'm using Claude Code just in Cursor. And so now, as you can see, Claude Code kind of takes over this space on the right-hand side. So this now basically acts like my agentic workflow. And I work quite a bit this way as well. And so there's some times where I just want to go really ham and just bang out ideas with Claude Code and not have to worry about any limits. That's what I do. And once you select Cursor for the IDE integration, you'll see that the IDE is integrated. And then when you actually go to select files on the left-hand side here in this toolbar, you can just select any file. You can do select anything, and you can actually see that the file name actually comes up in the listing right here, right above me. So if I select these like 3 lines of code, or if I select, this thing, and then now it'll say there's 5 lines selected. And then I could just say, can we change the limit to whatever? And then it'll just do that type of iteration for you. So that's what's cool about the integration. A lot of people, I just was talking to someone who on my live stream, his name was King Butoshi. We were coding an AI robot. And he didn't know this, but I want to show you this cool trick with Claude Code in Cursor or Claude Code in general. You can actually select files by doing the @ name. So if you just in Claude Code, you just type an @ and then you'll see the list of files. So if you want to do like compact, you just start typing in the name. It'll actually do the search for you. And you can use the up and down arrows to select the file for context. So when I hit enter, it already has that file in that context. And then you can just type in, I want you to do X, Y, Z. And then if you want to create a new line, you hold Shift and you hit enter. And then you see it actually kind of creates those breaks for you, which is super awesome. And so, yeah, that's kind of that. If you're in a quick nutshell for like navigating around Claude Code. I know it's a terminal interface. It's not like a user GUI interface like you have with Cursor. So if you like just a really simple, user interface, Cursor has made a lot of updates to incorporate some of the features that Claude Code has. One of them is called the to-dos feature. And so you can give it like a really vague system prompt because sometimes I really don't know what I'm doing. And I just gave it a bunch of requirements, and I just gave it feedback from what my users wanted. So my users wanted some history here, and then I just gave it some, guidelines. And then what's nice is that Cursor's agents itself figured out what to-dos to do, and is kind of going procedurally through these tasks. So that's pretty awesome. And that's the to-dos feature that's very similar to Claude Code. And so now I basically have a sysdiagnose earlier for me to send off for debugging. So that's kind of that there. So that's Claude Code. That's app files, which is similar to this. You can also drag files in from Claude Code as well, or drag images in. So if you drag an image from your desktop into here, it's going to have you hold Shift. And if you hold Shift, it'll actually show the file path for that image. So if for whatever reason you're not able to grab images, as long as you give it the exact file path in like a quote, like a single quote or something like that, then you're going to be able to reference that, and Claude Code is going to ask you for permission to read that image. So that's that as well. Another thing that a lot of people don't really know about Claude Code is it also has access to the web. So if you're new to using Claude Code and you have to explicitly tell it, I want you to do a web lookup. Or if you paste in a URL and say, I want you to look up documentation from this type of thing, that will allow Claude Code to use that and go read that file. It's going to ask for your permission. And you can say, yes, always for this session and so forth. So that's kind of some of those types of basics there for those who are asking and how to get that integrated. Hello from France. Hey, how's it going? Kimi K2 sucks on Cursor. So slow. I wish they'd use Groq. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there going on, Robin. If you don't know, Robin's a really great content creator on YouTube, so make sure you go follow him. He has a lot of really great edited content to help you get started with Cursor, Claude Code, and a bunch of stuff. He's talking a lot of relevant topics, and I really admire the work that he's doing there. So if you haven't had a chance to follow, we did a live stream talking about using Cursor because he has the Cursor Ultra plan. And I have the Claude Code Max plan. So we have a little live stream discussion in our history if you want to go ahead and check that out, which would be really cool. As far as Groq, I interviewed one of the engineers who worked on evals at Groq, and he has a lot of connections, obviously, to everyone else inside of Groq. And it sounds like they are still doing some work on Groq for tool calling. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the future that possibly happens. I'm also not really sure, what their infrastructure is, because I can imagine they may not have the capacity because Cursor has a crazy amount of requests, right? To handle all that. So I would just like to just add my own little instance where I just say, hey, hit this URL for my agent instead and let's cook. But yeah, right. As of right now, it's really slow. I agree with you. Do you like Kimi K2? I didn't get to the stream yesterday. I think it's pretty solid in Cline, crazy cheap too. So yes, if for those who aren't familiar, you can actually get Cline installed in Cursor by going up to the very top here. And then you can actually go to extensions and look up Cline. So the other day, I was very confused because I was like, how does Cline show up as an extension with 800,000 downloads, but only have so many star reviews? I'm going to close this here. And it only has 2 of these types of reviews. So I first thought it was fake, but then I went to the Cline AI website and it points me right back to this specific plugin. So this plugin is from this guy right here. And so when you get installed this one, you can actually select Kimi K2 and you can select Moonshot, or you can select whatever API provider like Groq. And it's basically its own agentic workflow, which would probably be pretty fast. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how that looks like as well. I just thought I would use Cursor's agent because Cursor's agent has made a lot of improvements, right? Especially with a task type of thing. And I thought, that'd be really interesting as far as what type of stuff can we get from it to make it super fast. So yeah, he trialed Kimi K2 yesterday in Cursor. It was kind of a big fail, as we can kind of see earlier. Yeah. How's it going, Sterling? And couldn't complete the job. Yeah. They should change that plus button into a minus if a model is selected. Yes, that's the problem with background agents right now. I was so confused because when I selected a model, apparently you can put the same model twice for the same request, which I don't know why you would do that. But yeah, it just was kind of bonkers. So you can accidentally sort of burn some money, if you know what I mean. Yes, you burned a lot of money with Opus. Fun fact about Opus today, I burnt over $220 worth of credits on the $200 plan. I'm nearly $400 in. So despite what people say, it's still very much worth it. 1000%. Oh, so it sounds like Robin's also signed up for the Max plan, which is pretty awesome for Opus, for Claude Code. Yeah, I feel like if you're going to be doing a lot of agentic coding, knocking down on a plan is probably pretty worth it. One advantage of Claude Code is the fact that you just pay once and every 5 hours it resets. So you can start off with a basic $20 a month plan. The $20 a month Claude Code plan will get you only access to Claude Sonnet in Claude Code, that little command line thing. If you upgrade to the $100 a month, that'll get you access to the Opus model. But by default, they only give you 20% usage before they switch you over to Sonnet. And then what basically means is that whenever you're using the Opus model, you could hit your rate limit a lot faster. And so you can explicitly just say, I want to use Opus, but then you may burn out in the list 30 minutes or maybe less than that. And so I just paid the $200 a month and you get apparently 5x more than that. And I haven't really had any issues. I just kind of flow, which to me is really nice. I do find the Opus model extremely good at planning, but I'm really actually kind of excited about Groq 4 because Groq 4 can get some planning underpinnings. I was really impressed with Groq 4 inside of Cursor for planning, Robin, and I'm really curious to see what your flow is. If you start a plan here, I copy that plan and then I sent it over to Claude Code and just let Claude Code really cook. and it just finished off the work that Groq 4 really couldn't like finish writing out. So yeah, it was interesting. I'm always testing these workflows and trying to see how these models behave. And your mileage may vary, by the way. It may vary because of the way that I prompt it. And so prompting does matter as far as like, how you gather the information or what tools you're using to do that. So it's going to matter about the code base. It's going to matter about the questions you ask. It's going to matter about trying to understand things. So don't be afraid to start out with a series of prompts to try to discover what you really need. The models get much more intelligent with their output, the more descriptive and the more direct that you are with them. Let me kind of rewind this back a little bit because this is kind of like a really thick topic, but the whole thing revolves around this thing called context rot. And so there are these studies that have been done that basically the more vague you are with your inputs, the more like kind of random it will be as far as what your outputs would be. So there are times where the AI model can really nail it, but they actually found that the more precise you get as far as what you're expecting and the outcomes and everything like that, it just means that you're going to guide the model to a much closer solution. What that means if you're kind of new to coding or you're not really familiar with the domain is that you should probably do the first step, which is do what I call like a discovery prompt. So like this is totally new right off the cuff. I'm just kind of trying to teach you how to like prompt if you're kind of new to coding. Do this thing called like a discovery prompt where you're just going to be talking back and forth with the model to try to figure out how the code base works, right? Like how is the data, like the things that you want to ask, it's like, for this feature, how is the data going to flow in and how is it going to move between my app? If you're running an app like Next.js, you have to deal with something that's on the front end, which is what the users will see, and something on the back end, like a database or how you write data and do those types of states. So you want to try to learn how that stuff is maintained and ask those types of questions. And so that way the AI agents will actually go in and pull that information for you and kind of teach you what's going on. You'll also want to notice the key terms that it's using because that's what you're going to use in your next series of questions. If you need help with that, I tend to use O3 as a model because it's really good at grabbing lots of context. And you can just paste that into ChatGPT, select the O3 model and just say, I want to build this feature. How should I tell that to a language model to help me build it? And then you can actually see the prompt that it's going to write for you basically to help hand that off to the model. You want to review that prompt and study it because eventually you want to become so proficient you can just kind of do that on the fly, which is kind of what I do verbally on the fly, but then you'll start to think more like how an engineer thinks to make software. And I feel like that's probably the biggest thing. So if you're a beginner, start out with, I think this thing's called the discovery prompt. The discovery prompt is going to get you that information you need to then hand that off to the next step. And so that way you can kind of start to learn a little bit more about what the AI model is doing, and then you can set your own expectations. Even though I have a lot of experience with software, I'm still playing around with a new programming language, so I really don't know sometimes what I expect, or it's been a little while since I've touched the code base, so I want to learn what's going to happen or what types of things that I should be looking at to do a specific task, and I don't really know going into it, right? So you've seen me a lot prompt live, and it just really feels really natural in the way that I do it. But I want to hand that off to you as far as like a gold nugget. If you're thinking about this type of stuff, yeah, but you're creating value with it or just burning credits. I wouldn't think about it as a if or this, that. I think when you're coding with AI or using these AI models, just think of them as your assistants, right? They have a lot of general knowledge and there are things that you may not know yet. And so you have to bridge that gap. And so these models can be really helpful because they don't need to be explicitly trained on your explicit code base, right? It doesn't have to spend hours training on your writing styles to understand what you're trying to say, right? So that's the advantage of like AI. Could I use Claude Code for free with some limitations? You can use Claude Code. I don't think you can use it for free. I think you have to be a pro member. So it's $20 a month. I know for those who are wondering, Bilal is like 15 years old and he's an app maker. So he's doing some cool stuff. Bilal, if you go ahead and drop the URL, I don't know if it allows you to drop URLs or not, but you can just drop the name of your app and I'll just put it up here. So for folks to check it out. This kid is coding with AI, right? Like I think he's like the future of a lot of us. And we're all trying to learn at the same time. So I definitely appreciate you for dropping in. It's so cool that you're in here. So yeah, that's what's up. Sup, Vibers. Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah. Also smash the thumbs up. I always like to see when people are like hitting the little thumbs up icon. It's really fun to see these little things and see that. So Robin says, I'm building a massive database full of data. I query it with AI so yeah, massive value for me. It's so nice to be able to see people who like are using AI like this to just, learn, but also like have it help, with that type of thing. Every time someone's hitting a thumbs up, I'm literally just doing like this. I've been using Groq for and planning, using plan mode for Cursor and Claude for Sonnet for coding. Sometimes I use Groq for both. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. How has that been, by the way? I'm just curious to see what your experience has been using Groq for. Do you find like it nails it? Or I'm also curious to see how the reliability has been over time, because I feel like it's probably gotten a lot better since the launch, right? That's cool. I also love that everyone's kind of interacting here in the comments. Agentic Personal is asking Robin some questions about Kimi K2 with Claude Code. And so I know that I set this up, but I haven't really done it too much because of the speed. And then I was trying to get it set up with Groq. And when I set up Kimi K2 Groq, I felt like the answers didn't feel as long or as well responded as like the Moonshot API. Granted, this was literally the first day that everything came out. So Moonshot came out. I thought it was pretty cool as far as its response in Claude Code. And then the second part of it is when it was available on Groq. It was like they burned out for 72 hours. The guy did not sleep, shipped the software, got it out. He went to sleep. And I don't know if you know anything, when you get software first out the door, it's so like raw. So these people have to make their tool calls to be able to like tweak them and optimize them for everything else. So I need to go back to it, but right now I've been kind of playing around more with these background agents and playing around more with like Kimi K2 as it's being integrated into Cursor. I'm extremely curious right now how Cursor is integrating these agents and these new models. And to me, it seems that they're making a lot of changes really quickly. There's also rumors of the Claude Code people who spent some time at Cursor and apparently they went back to the Claude Code. I don't know. They must have just did some type of thing where they were just kind of hanging out and doing a lot of knowledge sharing. They are partners, Anthropic and Cursor, in some like back of the napkin type of way. So I wouldn't be surprised if the engineers just spent like months there, like just giving them the sauce of what they're doing, because Anthropic is not really trying to probably make an IDE, right? Or I don't know. I really don't know. This is all just rumors, just curious. I need to go to the office and yeah, I'll have some exciting news for you. So make sure you stay tuned and make sure you stay subscribed. And if you hit the thumbs up, I will do this every time I see a thumbs up. So every time you see this, you know that someone's basically hit a thumbs up, which is kind of like, I could probably be in the middle of the stream. I'll be like, it's too funny. Every time Cursor tries to npm run dev, for example, that process will stay up forever. And that's probably why you have such a high usage. So it will stay up forever. Cursor tries to do, so every time Cursor tries to do an npm run dev, so the process is up, but it's not, is it actually eating your usage? That I need to ask the Cursor team about that, because I'm really curious. Can we send an image into Claude Code? Yes. If you drag an image in Claude Code, what I do is I usually drag the image from my Mac on the desktop, drag it into Claude Code inside of Cursor. And then when you do that, it's actually going to show like a little shift key like icon inside of that. So you hold the shift key and then you let it go, and then you'll actually see the file path name. So you'll see it in quotes. So that means that's the image being in there. You can continue with your request. And then when you do that, when you continue with the request, it'll actually ask you for permissions to read the image, and that's how it reads the image. So everyone who's doing a thumbs up right now on my video on YouTube is literally seeing me do this as a response. I think it's actually kind of funny. If it's like making me dance, that's actually too hilarious. Yeah, similar to Cursor. Yeah, did not know this is awesome. Where can I learn from these live streams? Okay, cool. Hey, good morning, Alberto. Welcome to the chat here. We're just kind of talking about Claude Code, Cursor, and Chill, and having a lot of good sauce in here. So definitely appreciate that. Hey, Ray, have a great stream. Hey, Arda, how's it going? Thank you for joining in. So awesome. Should I use my own API key for Cline, or does it have to have a subscription? You can use your own API key with Cline, which is nice. So you install the Cline plugin here, and let me see if I can get this question here. So let's just install this real quick because I uninstall it. So let's just reinstall it, right? So up here into the extensions is kind of where I'll hit, and then we hit Cline, and then I could just hit the little install button here, which is what I'll do. And so it should install it. And now we actually have it available as a little drop down up here. So let me just kind of move my head this way a little bit, and then we move this comment. And so what we have here is basically Cline. And so I'm going to go ahead and remove this thing and this guy. Okay. So Cline is here, and it's, okay, cool. We can, interesting. So despite me removing it, my database of the previous chats are still available, which is pretty cool. And I'd be curious to see if it still has my keys. Oh, it still has my configuration. That's nice. So I do still have the Groq API endpoint up here, and I still have that. Oh, awesome. Done. So maybe, what if I give it the same request? I'm really curious. Let's go. So we'll get to see Groq in action. So this is, okay. So Cline has a plan, and it also has an act mode. So I can go to plan mode so it won't touch my code. That's awesome. I'm going to reject the changes that Cursor tried to do earlier because I tried to use Kimi K2 in Cursor and it totally caught an L. And so I'm going to just reject that. So that way we're back into our state here. And then it made all these changes, and I'm just going to go ahead and select all of them and just go ahead and say discard changes. So that way we just discard all 10 files. Yeah. Just undo all of the nastiness that it tried to do. So to go back into Cline, we're going to go ahead and select Cline here. And the API key that I have set up is for Groq. And so in our little settings dropdown, you have to select OpenAI compatible. And then you hit the base URL, which is api.groq.com/OpenAI. Bilal, in the Discord, I actually have a post maybe that's in there that's actually going to connect to this thing called the, I think it's like the eraser board. So is it? Let me see if I can find it in the Discord. But basically on the Discord, I have a link that's available if somebody can link them. It's basically the Excalidraw. And in Excalidraw, I actually have the base URL, Excalidraw. Yes. So in here, are my scenes loaded up? It's not in here. Maybe it's in Chrome. So let me see if I can get this loaded up. But basically, I have the base URL in there, and then you would paste this in. I'll put it into the Discord right now, so that way you can have it since you're probably in the Discord, and everyone in my Discord can have it. So I'll put that in the Let Me Cook community here. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. 1, 2, 3. Boop. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So you'll see this exact endpoint I've pasted in there. I will not paste my key in there. And then, okay, so we're good. So once we have that in there, we select the OpenAI endpoint. I'm going to hit go. And it shouldn't go unless I revoke the key, because I think I might have revoked the key. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I think I revoked the key. Oh, sign in decline. Oh, okay. So sign in. I thought it just uses my API key. Open. Okay, cool. So it will, I'm just going to quickly sign in decline because I removed the plugin and then just going to reinstall it. So I'm just really curious to see what's going to happen because I actually haven't done this same request on Groq, and we'll get to see what happens. It took like 40 minutes in Cursor's agent to basically do that type of thing. So always allow. Okay, cool. Open. Great. So now I'm back. And so let's go ahead and see if I can get this going again. I could say retry. Language model did not provide any assistance. This may be an issue with the API or for the model's output. Okay, so it's possible. Let's go back to the history. I'd like to resume task. Okay. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, sweet. Now it's actually going. Cool. This is great. You can see the context that it's building up. So we're using Cline inside of Cursor, and we're using the Kimi K2 endpoint on Groq. So that's Groq with a Q, and Groq provides extremely fast inference. And we can see this API request cost is kind of adding up. So each little thing that it does to do a file check, it's basically 0.02 cents. I thought it was, oh, I see. Yeah, I think Groq charges $1 per million and $3 per million for the output for Kimi K2. It's still cheaper than like if you're using Opus. So you get, apparently we should be able to get like this Opus or Sonnet level intelligence with this type of model. And so, yeah, we're just going to see it basically do its thing. I can't believe how fast it's eating through the context window. I had no clue that this massive prompt would be able to do that. It's not even that massive, to be honest, but it's now intelligently looking through my code. I like the speed at which it's going through. So this already finished. Damn. Yeah, let's just keep going. This approach will be very efficient because we're leveraging your existing database queries, UI component library, file handling utilities, authentication, user management, and styling system. Would you like me to proceed with this plan? I can start by creating the history page and navigation build-out. Yeah, this looks great. Oh, so as soon as I change it from plan to act, it just starts implementing the... Whoa, this is crazy. Okay. Wait, is it done already? Oh, it wants to. I'm just going to go ahead and save. Yeah, I just have to tell it that it's okay to write my files. Bro, Groq is cooking. Can I just save forever? I don't want to like keep hitting save. There should be a way to do that. I love this. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is fire. This is fire, man. So let's see. Does it show us the cost? Yeah, like to put in this code is 3 cents, 2 cents. And then the total. Okay, so the total cost for this has only been 39 cents. Yeah, that's pretty chill. I mean, this could have been dollars, like $3 or something like that in Claude Sonnet. Damn, this is cooking. I love this. Hey, Bilal, thank you so much for telling me more about this. So we're just kind of watching this thing kind of do its thing here. So let's see. I see most of the time you use Claude Code and Cursor nowadays. So what's your main use case for ChatGPT Pro $200 a month plan? My main use case right now has just been the O3. So I use O3 so much with O3 Pro. I also tend to use repo prompts quite a bit in the background, not on live, because I'm doing a lot of planning tasks. And I'm also doing a lot of writing tasks. I'm also doing a lot of other live tasks. So what I'm doing right now in my life is basically I'm using O3 Pro to help me with like medical records research. My friend has dementia, so I'm doing a lot of research with that as well. And so I'm trying to figure out like these different ways and have O3 Pro. Anyone who does a like basically on the YouTube video, I have to do this little dance where I'm doing this type of thing. So if you see that, it looks pretty funny. And that's kind of why I'm using the basically paying for the $200 a month plan, because I am sending lots of different research requests across. And so I want a lot of deep research that's done in like specific medical domains. And then I just basically have almost infinite access to O3 and O3 Pro, which is super awesome. So I could just keep fitting it context. I do find it super helpful as far as like, I just feel like it kind of leverages more context. I haven't not paid for I haven't canceled the plan or anything. But from what I understand, I do think that you actually get more context in the chats compared to just the basic $20 a month plan. Everyone's just going to start smashing this, and I'm just going to be like this like all the stream, like Claude Code for the win. Hey, good morning, Joe. How's it going? We're watching a lot of stuff cook right now. I'm a little bit behind the chat, but I'm going to make sure I get caught up. I have a question. How is Kimi K2? Kimi K2? I need to play around with it more, and that's kind of what we're doing here live as well. I'm on Claude Code all the time now. When the 5-hour limit hits, I just walk the dog and come back and code later. Eddie, you have the same. That's what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? Like whenever I hit a 5-hour limit early or something, it's like I need to get out of this screen. I don't know if you know, but like it's really hard for me to sit down for like 2 hours, even like an hour and a half. I've been doing a lot of weight training recently, and like when I'm doing leg day, like my legs are so sore, I have to get up and move. I get too stiff if I sit down for too long. So, yeah, I find Cursor, Cline virtually unstable after using Claude Code for 2 months exclusively. My tasks are often very complex, and yet Claude Code is the only one that succeeds. What you think? Ilya, I find the same thing. And part of it is because I like to do a lot of planning ahead of time. In Claude Code, if you hit Shift Tab twice, for those who are new to Claude Code, you'll see this little green plan thing. So let me show you real quick. Down here. I also love this AMA style, by the way. This is really, really fun. I kind of find it fun to connect with you. So underneath Ilya, down below in the terminal, I have a Claude Code loaded up. Let me just kind of remove some of these other distractions so that we can kind of see what we're cooking with here. So down below underneath Ilya, we have this thing, and then you can see IDE disconnected. So I could do /IDE and then go cursor. So now that's connected. Okay. So if you ever see that, make sure you can just do those steps to get it back. If you hit Shift Tab, Shift Tab again, Shift Tab. Okay. You'll see it go through this cycle right here. So Shift Tab will say auto accept edits on, Shift Tab again, and you hit plan mode. So the green plan mode just means that you're in a planning mode. So similar to what I was doing there in Cline earlier, it was basically showing us that, I was in a plan, and then we switched from plan to act mode. So in plan mode, you can keep iterating and start to get really, really detailed. And one of the advantages of using cursor agents, which is probably what Ilya is seeing right now, is the fact that cursor agents is extremely good at being agentic to go grab the code and grab specific parts of the context that it needs to send off to Claude. And I find it to be really, really good, especially if you're using like stuff in React or Next.js and stuff, because a lot of components tend to be compartmentalized, and it's easier to grab context and files and snippets of things. And so that agent is really good in the background. Ilya, I would be curious. For me, I'm really curious. So I'm actually using Cursor again and just trying to see if their agent has caught up. And I must say, given the recent changes, they have really caught up, because in one of the background tasks that I was reviewing, Ilya, I was actually seeing how intelligent it was at actually kind of going back and reviewing, not only reviewing the code, but trying to understand what we should be doing. So in my chat conversation with this background agent, I should be able to show you what that looks like. So let me just show this here. Let me go back. So this is kind of why I like to do these every so often and show you on the stream, because I gave that same request for the feature request. And when it did its thinking, it's doing the thinking that I would normally see. Like, I wouldn't really see this in Claude Code, but I know that Claude Code is doing some type of thinking. And then it goes through its agentic tool calling, and then it goes to the next step there, and it does 3 more searches in parallel without me telling it about sub-agents at all, which is nice, because I used to have to explicitly say sub-agents in Claude Code. And so look at all the files. It's basically doing a grep between these specific lines in my schema and also through all these different files. And then it's probably doing some type of machine learning and re-ranking. So then it does, so like, look at the question it's asking my code base. This is Claude Sonnet inside of Cursor as a background agent. So it's asking, what is the current convex database schema for the transcription data? So it's trying to find it in my code. Then it goes to the next step and says, how are the transcription results saved to the database after processing? And then it's looking through those files, right? And then it asks one more question. This is still that same search. This is one of many parts of that background agent that ran, right? And it says, what API routes handle the transcription processing, right? So then it's looking at this specific directory and doing that. And then it thinks again for 11 more seconds. So this is really, really cool. It seems that Cursor is catching up to their agentic tool calling. In Claude Code, they hide that in the background. They don't really show a lot of this sauce, probably because I don't know why. But in Cursor, they're showing that a little bit more. And in all of the benchmarks, whenever you have these models like Claude Sonnet, it excels and gets more intelligent the more tool calls and the more that thinking is actually done in its current way. And as you can see how Cursor is actually formulating that context for us, it's grabbing those pieces of code. It's actually asking really smart questions, thinking through the way that I would think through as an engineer of how the data would flow through your app. And earlier we were talking about, if you're new to coding, what types of questions do you need to ask if you were trying to understand your code base? And it's kind of cool that some of these agents are already starting to do that for us. And Cursor is actually showing that background. So I'm showing you this because this is how you have to think as an engineer through your code, not Ilya specifically, but other people who are newer, to kind of see this type of sauce. This is so good. And so now it's basically given us this thinking plan, right? So it's like, now that I understand your code base structure after reviewing all those files, this is what we should do. Here's the database schema. Here's the different, like, it's basically giving me a report of these results, existing queries. It's talking about my front end, the API routes, and it's also found my hooks file that I basically handle like some of the logic and stuff. And it's analyzing my current state, and then it's figuring out what we need for the history feature to be enabled. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And so then it reports back at the higher level. So all of that thinking and stuff that I was just showing you was literally this, what says thought for 5 seconds. all of this is happening at almost like the speed of light, right? And it's all happening in parallel, all in the background, using all of their sauce. And that is super impressive. I don't know, Ilya, how recently you've tried this stuff in Cursor, but this is kind of why I do these things every so often. And yesterday was my first time kind of trying this. I'm like, damn, okay. They've done a lot of work to kind of catch up. And then guess what? It's going to do a second phase of things. So not only do we have that, it's going to try to see if I can, it knows that I have infrastructure. So let's just try to see if it can understand the complete flow. So then it does an even further thing. And I'm not going to go into those details, but as you can imagine, that level of detail that it did up there for the planning, it's also doing that for the implementation phase. And then it actually goes to write the code finally, right? And in between writing the code, it does some more thinking as well to verify that everything is kind of following along its process. I don't know how Cursor is able to keep all of this stuff in its memory and keep it going, but whatever they're smoking, they got some good stuff. So I wanted to do that little bit of a deep dive because this is currently a Cursor Ask Me Anything. So if you're just popping into this live stream, I'm a little bit behind on the comments, but I will get to you. And if you do hit a little like or share this, definitely share this with a friend if you're watching. If you know anyone in the Cursor community or if you're involved in a Cursor community, please share this out to those folks as well. I will have timestamps in this live stream going back once the live stream is done. I'm going to do some processing on that. So you can click through and I'll probably have, that'll be a way for everyone to kind of track any questions they could have or any types of things. So yeah, definitely the likes go a long way. If you hit share and share it into your communities now, it'll draw some other people in to do that. If you're a YouTube member, I'm going to definitely try to get to those questions first as I'm working through a little bit of the backlog right now for this type of thing. So yeah, let's kind of see if I can kind of keep going here. You should use plan mode in Cursor similar to Claude Code's one. There's a plan mode? Wait. I have not seen the plan mode thing. If you can tell me about this, I will be just kind of blown away. Does he look at the chat here on YouTube? Yes, I'm just a little bit behind, my friend. Yes. Do you think Groq 4 compares to O3 for planning in your experience? Yeah, actually, I like Groq 3. Groq 3 for planning is really, really good. I don't know if you know this, but I was using repo prompt and Groq 3, the 3 version. That was phenomenal for planning. The like relationships that it has for entities and databases is phenomenal. It is really, really good. And so that's what I was looking for in Groq 4. And so when we use Groq 4 on the web, it didn't really understand what it was doing with all these metadata tags, which just means that the model is still under training and their code model will be launching in a couple months. So we'll have the Groq 4 code model. I have the $300 a month heavy plan. And so I'm going to be sending it through a bunch of things and I'm expecting to be blown away. I'm already pretty blown away with Groq 3, but I know Groq 4 is still being kind of tweaked and stuff. And I'm pretty sure they're going to go just crazy. I think it's just going to be super hot. So we'll see. That's why you should learn coding before using AI. Without learning to code, it's going to be hard to get a good juice out of AI. Spoken from the wise 15-year-old himself, Bilal. You're definitely on it for sure. I definitely would say that as well. I started using O3 to kind of get an idea, then push it into Claude Opus because Claude Code knows more about what it wants. So I do it twice before I build. Yeah, that's a really good idea to just kind of go around that way. So cool. You need Pro at least for Claude Code. I think we're kind of catching up with that. Do you use Super Claude framework? I don't actually. So for prompt discovery, this is a concept I was talking about earlier. Do you use one chat GPT reasoning models to prepare the prompt for other models like Groq, Lovable, and so on? You can do that, but I think it's better if you can try to understand yourself, even if you don't know, just to help you. And the way I'm treating AI and AI coding is kind of like a whiteboard or a scratchboard session. So I can just throw something out there, have it generate, see the code that it generates, and then see if I can try to understand what it's trying to do and how it leverages the framework to write a specific thing. So, I think this is kind of like what I would use for prompt discovery and just kind of treat it as this interactive learning session where if you were to ask a senior engineer, they'll have their own way of doing it. And if you ask a different senior engineer, they're going to have another implementation as well. So I know it sounds kind of vague, but yes, I think, but as a first level, I think you should be able to read through the prompt and understand it yourself before you hand it off to another agent so that you can like just not YOLO everything, if you know what I mean. Because the words and the information do matter. and like the pruning of things, because you don't want to introduce you may not know if you introduce something into your prompt that's going to actually like spoil things in the future, but you'll find out pretty quickly if it's not getting the results you want. Hey, we can use Claude, etc. for SRE DevOps. Any cool ideas, Rajat? I think I found ChatGPT to be really good at writing shell scripts. So I would definitely be going crazy with shell scripts and writing different like scripts there for your workflows. But I'm probably Claude Code and Opus could do the same thing as well. I would just say, just give it a basic task and just kind of something that you're doing every single day for copying or deploying servers or creating images, and just let it cook and see what it comes up with. You'll be really surprised. And then once you have enough of these scripts around, see if you can build a framework around it so that you can just, update code easily. So just kind of challenge yourself. It's super awesome, to be honest, when using it in plan mode and Cursor. I need to find out about this plan mode. This is crazy. So do you guys using the max plans, are you paying out your pocket or is work paying for it? And if you're paying out of your own pocket, is ITF or work related projects? So yeah, I'd love to hear what folks in the community are doing. I know I'm paying out of pocket. And part of it is I'd be paying out of pocket even if I wasn't turning on the live streams, because I want to leverage these systems to learn more about them. The second part of it is as an engineer, I want to try to automate as many things as possible. And so the promise is almost there, right? As I'm watching these background agents evolve from last year when I started doing this agentic coding to now, they've come a very long way. And last year was the first time I made these like mega prompts on my live streams where we would use Opus to generate these like massive mega prompts. And I was using Perplexity to help me do that. And I basically visited the Cursor offices and showed this mega prompt to Ian. He's one of the engineers who works on Cursor, and he's the one of two engineers at the time who were making these background agent or these actual agentic coding stuff. And so at that time on my live stream, I just showed him like I get 5 screenshots. I give this mega prompt that I researched about Next.js, Tailwind CSS, and I put that into Opus, and it literally generated a Next.js landing page in just one shot. And so that type of thing is what I've always wanted to do for AI. It's sort of finally here now. And if I can trust a specific model to consistently output new features or implement smaller things, that's kind of where I'm looking to go with this. And it's not completely there yet as a feature set, but I'm learning as I go and I'm kind of sharing as I go. And so to me, that dollar amount that I spend is worth it to me. I do have probably a little bit more wiggle room than most people. Like if you're just getting started from college and you have like zero income, probably better just to start writing some apps and getting some income in. But then try to, maybe try some open source models or try to understand. But when you do try some of these really pricier models like Opus, you do feel like, oh, wow, it just kind of gets me more. I don't have to give it as many instructions. So I think definitely try to get some income streams if you can. So it's Command Shift Control 4 or 3 to take a screenshot, and then Command V to paste into Claude Code. Got it. Yeah. Once you get the screenshot, Command K versus Kimi K versus Claude in Claude Code. I think for me, Claude just natively is so good. Like inside of Claude Code, all day over Kimi K2. That's kind of the way I do. So yeah, anyone who hits a thumbs up, I have to do this little like dance type of thing. So make sure you hit the thumbs up, and I'll just keep dancing like this. Bro, in GitHub student plan. Did I get GitHub Pro plan too? I don't know. Yeah, $100 Claude Code versus Cursor, $20. Which has more value? Just raw tokens value. Well, of course, Claude Code, because it resets every 5 hours. Easy, right? Like that's all you get. So, great Cline interview on latent space pod. Ooh, I'll have to check that out. That'd be really cool. Thanks, Mike, for the heads up. What do you think about AWS Kiro? I have yet to take a look, Tristan. I noticed that in the last couple of weeks, I was trying too many different new products, and I get kind of exhausted because it takes me off a little bit of my path. I'm just waiting for new product launches like this to kind of flesh out, whatever. If the Amazon team reached out and said, hey, we want to pay you to take a look at it, I'd be like, okay, let me just take a look. But I don't want to like make you, sound more familiar, or like if anyone's going to pay me to take a look at things as like a consultant, I'm going to tell them the truth and be like, hey, like your product sucks. This is what you need to fix. Like fix these things. And, you know, by the way, thank you for paying me. And like, this is what my audience sees raw. And like, I don't want people to, you know, get a positive opinion just because someone paid me or anything like that. So I feel like I'm not taking a look at Kiro right now because right now Cursor is so good and it's already really good inside with Claude Code integrated for me that the switching costs and everything might be a little too much, but I might get around to it when they make more updates because I know a lot of people are getting the first look at it and there tends to be a barrage of like videos that only show like the positive things. And so, yeah, unless someone like really screams out in my Discord and says, Ray, you have to take a look. Oh my God, this is amazing. I'm using it. And like, this is way better than Cursor. I've had zero of that. So it doesn't seem worth it for me to check it out right now. Do you check out Kilo Code before? Yeah, no. I like it more than Cline. Okay. Arda, I'd be really curious to see. This is like my first like response to this. Okay. You could do this in Cursor. Yeah. Claude Code on the Max plan is downgraded version to the standard API setup. No, I think it's the same. I think you get everything now on the Max plan because they now have that stuff inside of GitHub where you can add Claude and it's going to use your plan instead of using your API credits. But would love to know some more clarifications. Kimi K2 instruct is not the full power of Kimi K2. You can compare them on OpenRouter. Oh, that's really cool. I'd love to know that. So yeah. Since Curio has been very interesting, will Cursor have anything to fight against it? Dude, Cursor is the king right now. Did you see that agentic coding workflow? One of the problems that I see with Kiro is that the planning is too specific to an Amazon workflow. And let me just give you some sauce real quick. I mean, this is like, I don't work this way as far as like the way that their planning mode works. So at this company I used to work at, and I can't tell you specific details, but outside of that company, when I left, on my own now, I find the best way to execute on features is literally to talk to your users and then circle back in the code and kind of do this feedback loop. I find that if I overplan too much, sometimes that can actually cause too many problems. And so a lot of the planning and testing that happens right before all the code is written and everything like that, it gets a little too aggressive at writing a bunch of tests and wasting a lot of tokens and a lot of the context window sometimes on that type of thing. And a lot of times the code that is sticking around for my initial prototypes, mind you, I am an entrepreneur. I am writing really lightweight software, really simple tasks. And I just want specific small features to be implemented as fast as possible using these AI agents. And so it is going to be good to have some verifiable tests, and it is good to have these types of things, of course, in the future. But I think like I'm just seeing a lot of over planning, to be honest, in Kiro's thing right now. And it's just not something that I want to take a look at right now to like debug or whatever, because a lot of my energies right now is just to shipping my apps. And so I do want to eventually come around to it once they get some more updates and they kind of listen to more of the community feedback to kind of tune some of those things. Then I think it may be more interesting to kind of take a look at Kiro at that time. But just from looking from the outside in, that's kind of what I'm seeing. I think there will be increase of limits soon. Yeah. Yeah, the plan and act are pretty sweet. If you can have Cline use your CC Max sub for free, then no need to pay for tokens. Oh, I see. Yeah, the Cline Claude Code Max, that'd be cool. I don't know if you know, but I can probably hook up Cline to the repo prompt MCP. Oh, but then it won't be using my Claude Code subscription. Nah, that sucks. Yeah, okay. That's what's up. All right. Let me just get to some of the recent comments because I'm so behind right now. But yeah, Bilal, thank you so much for the goated streams. Elias says, one of the things that makes me come back to Cursor is the UI. Even if the functionality is worse, the UI just feels nice to look at. Yes, there's something about the user interface when I'm in here clicking around, which is really, really nice. And when you can use it in Claude Code like the way I have, and you can option click, and you've seen me use this workflow for anyone who's been here on these streams, because you can click the files, you can review the code just like the way I'm reviewing my diffs here. And Cursor is a nice UI for this, and you can iterate on lints, you can ask it some questions and do all that cool stuff. So yeah, that's what's up. Also out of pocket, I'm paying. Okay, so Eddie's also paying out of pocket. I'm just catching up to the members only stuff right now because I'm way behind on the comments. Fascinating to hear you haven't found Groq 4 as strong for planning as Groq 3. This is probably more of a tunable problem because of the way that they're saying they're still tuning it for the code, right? So I think they would just wanted to drop the model to get in on the news cycle. The rumor is that ChatGPT is supposed to be dropping on Tuesday. That's my rumor. That's what I think is going to happen. So if ChatGPT does drop on Tuesday, then GPT-5, which is the next iteration of ChatGPT, is supposed to drop on Tuesday. Supposedly, I don't know. This is all rumors. It's supposed to drop sometime this month. And if Groq 4 wanted to take over a lot of headlines, they wanted to get to maybe their stuff out before. This is a tactic that other companies like Samsung have done before, like iPhone releases. They'll release their phone and try to splash over in front of other people. So it's like literally going like to a world fair or a world market where everyone's showing up to the markets. And they just know this is the time of the year that the iPhones release or the different phones release. So companies like that will just like literally put up banners and put everything, just kind of step in front of like the big main event to try to take up all that energy and try to suck some of that, attention away. And so it's a good tactic. And, these companies do that in AI space. You can see like Google will announce something and OpenAI will announce something different. And they will try to suck the news cycle away from the other guy. And that's just media, right? I'm not paid. I'm basically supported by members like you. So anyone who joins the community and joins my Let Me Cook stuff in the YouTube basically supports me. So, I don't. And if a sponsor were to actually reach out and want to work with me or partner with me, I will only partner with them if they actually let me criticize them publicly and let me use their software like an actual real person who's paid to consult and give advice. So I would basically, instead of consulting privately, it would just be a public consultation. It's like, hey, this is sponsored by this company. They wanted me to take a look at their software, and basically I will drill them live. So actually, if you want to see your favorite company drilled live, let me know. And I would it'd be kind of cool to get paid to actually just talk about them and use their software and actually say like, bro, y'all need to fix this. Just like I'm doing with Cursor, just like I'm doing with these things. I'm paying them to talk about their software and use it and tell you how to use this stuff because it's going to benefit you. And, for me, I'm doing this anyways. And I feel like education is super important and building communities like super important. So that's kind of my favorite thing to do right now. But yeah, GPT-5, I'm really curious, is right around the corner. And if it drops, I don't know if you know this, every single leap from GPT-3 to GPT-4 was 100x improvement. And that has taken like a 36-month window. We're right there right now with GPT-5. So GPT-5 is supposed to be another 100x improvement from GPT-4. Let me say that again. Every single jump from GPT-2 to GPT-3 was 100x. GPT-3 to GPT-4, as far as parameters and all these different types of things, 100x. So GPT-4 to GPT-5 is another 100x leap in the same time window of 36 months. And so whenever you have like a 0.5 release, like GPT 4.5 or GPT 3.5, that's only a 10x leap from the original model. So if you have GPT-3, GPT 3.5, that's a 10x increase. So when we saw GPT 4.5, it was a 10x increase. And where these models are going is the fact that they've been getting more agentic or have another like software that ties together the reasoning. And the way that some of these models work, in my experience, is that they have a lot of intelligence, but they have to be narrowly focused to produce output. And so in the advent of the reasoning models, it has taught the entire industry that if you have all of these parameters in the model, but you focus the energy into one specific direction, you're not going to utilize the rest of the intelligence of the models because depending on how the architecture is. But you can get more intelligence if you send what they call reasoning. If you send different traces out to the model with different like thoughts and different tasks to do, and then you generate all of this output, and then you have another piece of software or maybe another language model that kind of reasons between them and then tries to generate some more types of responses. So that feedback loop of generating and looping, 1,000 or many times per second can actually generate these smarter responses. And so that big breakthrough has happened in this GPT-4 to GPT-5 era. So not only are we getting these larger models, which means it's generally more intelligent because it's seen more about the world and has more data about the world, But the second part of it is that we have additional software underpinnings that these companies and these researchers have discovered to pin together different domains of knowledge so that it becomes smarter and more novel. What does that mean for us? It just means that we have to sort of now point it in a direction and just kind of let it really literally cook, all these GPUs in the background, and then it should return back some interesting responses. So we have to do this multi-step thing to guide these agents. And so if you have existing infrastructure, existing code, existing rules, whatever you would normally hire someone to do, that you can just now hand off to these general models because they've seen enough of the world to try to make sense of it. That's where the world is going. So GPT-5 to GPT-6 is going to be another 100x leap. So if you see this every 36 months and the models are generally going to get that much smarter, then you kind of have to think about, okay, what types of problems should I really start focusing on to solve? And then just pretend that the models are just going to be that much more generally intelligent. So you kind of have to build the train tracks, get people onto the train, and push the train a little bit until you actually get the right engine that comes in every 36 months. So if you get a lot of people on this train and then the right engine slides in, you have like $1 trillion company like that. Cursor, all these things, right? Got smarter when Claude Sonnet 3.5 dropped, right? Cursor was just okay. But last year when Claude Sonnet 3.5 dropped and I generated my first vibe coded app in one live stream, that was a banger. And that was the moment where I was like, oh my God, AI is actually much smarter than what we think. And they just dropped in the intelligence of the model and it just took off. So that's going to keep happening in a lot of different spaces, in a lot of different domains that we haven't really seen yet. But I'm telling you, this is literally AI 2.0. So we've just barely have AI 0, right? 0 to 1. Now we're going to have AI 2.0 with the way that GPT-5 is going to come out. And it's going to literally change the industry. And I have not had any previews of these models or anything like that, but I can just see this as an engineer and where it's going. That's why I'm really excited about this space. And I have to tell you about this. It's going to be crazy. And don't be fearful. Just get really curious and start playing with these things. So yeah, let me kind of get off my little horse here. So yeah, catching up a little bit with the chat. What engine would you build? That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. What problems are really interesting to solve that can make a really big impact on the world. And I feel like it's more of a spiritual lesson, if you know what I mean. So for me, it's hunger, medicine, poverty type of stuff. People where education's huge. So if you give an intelligent model to a kid to learn and is very curious, everything is shown. Whenever you have a private tutor for a single child, they do way better in school and everything than any other kid who doesn't have a private tutor. So to do that today, it costs a lot of money. But now if it doesn't cost you that much money anymore and they're available 24/7 and you have a curious kid who wants to learn, they're just going to just take off, right? If you don't give a kid a computer today with internet, they're going to be so far behind, right? Because they don't have the intelligence, they don't have access to all these things. So that is a big space, education. There's many other spaces out there, but to me, that's really interesting too, right? Because you can generate images, you can generate voices, you can generate things to, build little worlds. I was just thinking about this the other day. It's how cool would it be to have a history lesson to look back and just actually generate a video game that you play. And you go to these characters, you talk to them, and they're emoting exactly how it was to be in that era of time, right? That would have been fire. If I played a Zelda game that was based off of history, and it was literally just vibed in the last 5 minutes. Sheesh, you know what I mean? That would just be crazy. So, yeah, that's just kind of way that I'm thinking about it, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. Hey, man, thank you so much for reposting the stream. I definitely appreciate everyone who's doing that. Also, anyone who hits the little thumbs up button or I have to do this little dance thing. So yeah, that's what's up. I have a vision where every single person with a phone will have access to an AI agent that acts as their personal assistant in a not so distant future. Do you agree? I mean, that's technically already happening now, right? When you have an email, right? Whenever you send a text message, you're handing it off to a system that's already handing it off to something else, right? It's already interacting at this multiple layers. And, there's already intelligence in routing, right? Routing for phone calls was done by hand. Literally, would go to a call center, somebody would listen to you and then switch you over manually. That changed over with machines, right? That changed over with computers. It's, then you add AI to it now. And there's like all these different types of steps. So yeah, I mean, I think technically it's already been here. It's now we're just seeing more evolutions of that. What engine? Oh yeah, we were talking about this as well. So let's see. Windsurf is $15 a month. You can get 250 Sonnet messages from them. Likely more usage than Cursor because agent tool calls don't use credits. They also have their own unlimited suite model. Yeah, Windsurf is actually not a bad deal if you want to take a look at it because of that type of thing. And so if you want to take a look at Windsurf, it's really good. A suite model for planning is actually pretty good too. I liked it when I was using it for planning a while back. Have you ever tried Gemini 2.5 Pro with Cline inside of Cursor? I tried Gemini 2.5 Pro and I find that I have to give it a lot more prompting and I haven't spent enough time with it to really kind of do the thing. I've used Claude Sonnet and Claude Opus and I have to give it less instructions and it understands me more. So that's kind of why I've keep sticking to Sonnet and Opus. If you have a lot of luck, I feel like you have to kind of know exactly how to prompt Gemini to get the most out of it. It probably has a lot of intelligence, but in my experience, I have too much mental bandwidth trying to use Gemini 2.5 Pro that I just say it's much easier in Claude Code and using Claude Sonnet and Claude Opus. And I cook so fast with that. So that's kind of where I'm at with that, if you know what I mean. So I want the holographic doctor from Star Trek Voyager. That's crazy. That'd be so crazy, man. On Claude Code, has Anthropic reduced the limit? Anyone facing a similar issue? I don't know, Amit. Really curious to hear, like, if you have that CC usage that command or how many requests you've sent. I'm just really curious to see what it thinks you've used. Have you tried any Claude Code or Cursor enhancers like SuperClaude or Memory Bank? They optimize context usage memory, including support for custom commands and hooks. Max, I have not tried that. I'm really curious, but a lot of times I try to keep my prompting and everything extremely lightweight, and I try to let the Claude Code itself figure it out, or Cursor itself. I do find them to be improving extremely fast. And as we did a review earlier today, if you're just hopping on, earlier in the stream, we were taking a look at the background agents from Claude Sonnet and all of the thinking and the tool chain that it did. And that's a very different behavior than I have ever seen inside of Cursor in the last several months. So there's clearly been a huge step change inside of Cursor's agent that I'm going to keep looking at because I feel like this is a really interesting advancement that I'm not seeing other models do. And I've seen Claude Code do it, which is why I was really happy about Claude Code. But I'm kind of taking a look back, if you know what I mean. Have you ever heard of Groq 4 Heavy? Have you tried it? Yes, I have the Heavy plan. And I need to try it again because when I was trying it at launch day, it was not that impressive. I actually have like a 3-hour live stream that already has 30,000 views on my channel. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, that'd be really cool. Are you going to the OpenAI Dev Day this year? George, I have applied to the Dev Day and I'm hoping to hear back, and that'd be really cool to go this year because it'd be really fun. I will definitely be doing any live streaming inside of OpenAI if they let me do that. So that'd be chill. All right, folks, let's see if we can kind of get a little bit more into some Claude coding and things. It's about 9:30, so I have to head out soon because I have some coffee with someone at 10 o'clock. So I have to make sure I can have some time to do that. What are your main thoughts on ChatGPT agents? The agent stuff is interesting. I think it's still really early and I need to play around with it a little bit more because I just got access and I want to see how it is at doing some other day-to-day research because I have celiac disease and I want to have it research restaurants for me because that's I spend a lot of time there and I just want to be able to do that. So cool. Yeah. All right. So how do I get into this plan mode in Cursor? Oh, okay. So I think Bilal was talking about this plan mode, but I think he's talking about like a custom mode. So if you set a custom mode, you can actually set up like a model that you want to run for this type of thing. And then what you can do is then tell it what access to things it has. Like if you want to run any MCPs or do specific types of tasks. And then the advanced options, you can give it custom instructions. So I can give it like a custom prompt for planning so that it would just not write the code, but just literally just, only do the planning. So it looks like it says apply edits. And so you can, if you turn that on, right, it should be able to apply the edits for us or auto fix errors. So if we say, yeah, okay. So if I set a model, for example, Claude Sonnet, or let's just say max, right? And I want to have the max, Claude max, like all of the tokens, burn the whole house down. And then I just call it plan, right? Plan mode. And I go back. And then I have the model selected. And can I add more models? No, I'm good. So down here, okay, I have a plan. Hit the little pencil. So far, do I have any key bindings? Oh, I can press keys to set to just switch, to do like a hotkey switch to it. And then it should have access to all these tools. And then it does not auto apply. And I could just say it's a planning agent. So I think what I could do is go to repo prompt. It's funny, I'm like jacking prompts. So in repo prompt here, there isn't like an architect planner or an architect prompt. So I can copy that. But the architect prompt, basically what it shows is like, you're a senior software architect specializing in code design, and your role is to analyze the requested changes, create detailed implementation plan, and then for each change, detail the exact location based off the user instructions. So if I like copy this plan and then I just go into here and I just put it as my custom instructions and then hit done, theoretically now when I hit plan, it should automatically select this model. So if I just go to agent, it'll select whatever agent preferences I had. And if I select plan, it should now select the max plan. And then I can literally just launch into my instructions. And theoretically, Cursor now has like a planning mode, right? That it will do its thing. So it's going to use the Opus model and do that agentic tool calling to do the things. And theoretically, it shouldn't write the changes. It should just give me a generate plan. If I wanted to, I could probably even write more custom instructions to say, just generate a document that would be in Markdown in a specific, documentation folder. So that when it's done with its agent tool calling, it'll also write the actual plan that I can review it in a Markdown file, which is probably what I usually do a lot in Claude Code. So if I were to pay for the ultra plan in Cursor, this is probably what I would do to set that up. I would probably just get that plan mode set up, use the biggest model to do the planning, and then write out the documentation that I would just review for shipping a feature. So yeah, that's an interesting mode. And that was brought up from Bilal. He says, I provided the prompt in the Discord. Oh, cool. And so the prompt, I think, is just, you are a plan mode. In this mode, you should only ultra think, plan, and reason out reasonable steps, structure, strategies. Do not take any action, execute code, provide final answers with outputs. Okay, that's cool. That's a really cool prompt. Thank you for sharing that in the Discord. That's so awesome. Maybe I missed this. Are you using Claude Max Plan in Cursor? Yes. So I'm using the Claude Max Plan, but not inside of the Cursor agents. When I'm coding in Cursor, I use the run Claude Code. But if I am not using Claude Code inside of Cursor, like if I close this, right? And if I use the Cursor agent, this is what I call the Cursor agent. Go in here, agent. I'm actually paying out of pocket. So whenever I select one of these max models, I will be paying basically through usage. So whatever the API fee is to use the model, I'll be paying basically out of pocket. And I have the $20 a month plan, and so many requests are included. And I think after that, I'm paying out of pocket. So yeah, I think to me, I'm going to be really curious to play around with this a little bit more, even if it costs me like, $30 to $40 to do some requests. That research will tell me a lot about how advanced the model has progressed, enough to see like, am I still getting the same value from Claude Code? How often am I burning out with my Claude Code, which I'm really not that much? Can I just spend $100, or can I still spend the same amount of money and get everything done in Cursor so that, I have this nice UI, I have background agents, I have a lot of different things. Background agents, I think, are still a part of the paid plan. I'm still so confused about all the new pricing stuff, to be honest, but let's just take a look. So cursor.com, and then we're just going to go to the actual Cursor/pricing, I think. So, okay, so it just says priority access, and then you get 20x usage. 20x usage, wow, that's massive. Yeah, they don't have, so how the plan limits work. So the limits will always be greater than the cost of one's plan. For example, Pro includes at least $20 of agent model inference at API prices per month. If you go, the limits will ask you nicely to upgrade or switch to an unlimited model. Whoa, okay. Why isn't Cursor completely free? It's obviously it runs money. What models do you support? Cursor, no, you own the code. Okay. What do you support? Maybe here. context windows. Okay, so this is interesting information here as far as like context windows and capabilities. So the capabilities is, oh, agent can use tools. Okay. So the max mode. Okay, so Cursor normally uses a context window of 128K tokens. That's super interesting. So that's about 10,000 lines of max code or of code. So the max mode is basically an option to turn on the maximum context windows for all the models. This will be slower and more expensive. It is most relevant to Gemini 2.5 Pro and GPT-4.1, which may have a million token context window. Damn. So auto configures to select the premium model best fit for immediate task and the highest reliability based on the current demand. Okay, so whatever model you may get, you don't know, right? It's just kind of YOLO. This feature can detect degraded output performance and automatically switch to resolve it. Okay, great. Where are models hosted? So all of the models are hosted in the US-based infrastructure by the model's provider, a trusted partner, or Cursor directly. When privacy mode is enabled, neither Cursor nor model provider store your data. All data is deleted after each request. For details, see our privacy policy and security pages. So that's really good to know because I know people had some questions about this data privacy thing and what's happening here. So yeah, it looks like all these models are hosted on the US-based infrastructure. If that matters to you. Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Well, I don't know if I got any more information about pricing. So as far as plans here, it does say something about Pro Plus for users. So I don't know where to buy this Pro Plus plan. Like if I wanted to sign up for it. Roles? Yeah. Individual? Yeah. So you can review all the requests and token breakdowns on your dashboard. Okay. You can switch to auto when I reach your limits and then engage in usage-based pricing to continue with the same model at API charges. Okay. Or upgrade to a higher tier. Okay. Okay. Okay, virtual machine compute for background agents will be priced in the future. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's what's up. Huh. I recommend using SuperClaude, a set of custom instructions, commands, and not more affiliated. What is SuperClaude? Advanced development for some type of thing here. Let's see. A configuration framework that enhances Claude Code with specialized commands, cognitive personas, and development methodologies. Interesting. So it has slash commands, MCP server integration. So it has a lot of other stuff built into it. Its initial release, bugs may expected, features may not work, documentation still being improved, hooks system was removed, coming back in V4. So they must have had a lot of problems. It sounds like this is still very early, Toro. So I would love to hear what your experience is with bugs that you're finding using this and where have your limitations been as well. It sounds like it's very, very early though, as far as like what's going on. So it's like the stuff that Indie Dev Dan does some really cool stuff. A lot of times I'm trying to keep my workflows like extremely practical and a lot of the configurations are like super crazy, but these models are very intelligent. And I'm trying to like, for me, less is more, to be honest. So that's kind of the way that I roll. So if I am like, I don't really use Cursor rules anymore like I used to, right? Like I literally remove everything now. And then I build specific rules for specific tasks. And then Cursor also lets you have rules in specific folders. So I don't know if you know this, but now you can have Cursor rules like in specific subfolders. And this is kind of like a really cool unlock. So if you have these like markdown.cursor rules files, you can place these exact rules files inside of like a specific folder like API. So every time you do any code in the API route, Cursor will actually find it and follow the rules in that type of thing. And so this is very helpful if you have a thing like called a monorepo. So monorepo has many repos inside of it. And so a lot of times if you're calling code for your backend, you want it to do very back-end specific rules. And if you're calling code for the front end, you want to just do your design specific rules and other implementations for information about where the components live and so forth. So when agents are looking through those codes and they grab those directories, they're going to immediately grab those rules and apply those rules through the toolchain and reasoning. So that is already built into Cursor, and you don't have to have like special MCPs or extra configuration wrapped around it to do those types of things. So that's kind of why I'm saying like, there may be already something there that's built into your IDE. You may have to just go discover it. And a lot of times, like they cost you extra tokens to do more tool calls. A lot of times adding like MCP servers or adding other things on top of it may actually make the model less intelligent or may not output the smart response. So you can experiment now. Just toggle off all your MCPs and just try the same request. And you actually may find you get better output. And I'm finding that Claude Sonnet within Cursor, wow, that's if you have the max mode enabled, all that thinking that it does is very, very impressive. So yeah, loving the dual cam. That's awesome, man. I'm so glad. Anyone who hits a thumbs up, I'm basically just doing this little thumbs up dance, which is so hilarious. So we've got 50 of them in here. That's amazing. Why do you use both Cursor and Claude Code? I mean, Claude Code has support in plan mode, right? Yes, I'm using both. Basically right now, I'm just kind of testing them out. So for Cursor, they've made a lot of changes, and whenever they introduce a new model like Kimi K2 or Groq, I try it out so that I can see like, does this model behave differently? Is it more intelligent? Do I get something more that I'm not currently getting in Claude Code? Because I use the two IDEs already, changing the model and trying it out, paying whatever money I need to pay, to me is just kind of a good preview of seeing where the puck is going with these agents, right? So that's kind of why I try it out, and it just kind of, confirms any suspicions I may have for these types of things. Have you tried using macOS 26 beta? Currently running it, and I'm a fan. I have not tried. I used to, work there internally and install software all the time, every single day with like a new build or whatever. So I'm just not trying to test beta software anymore. Every single device and every single OS from every single platform, I would have a beta on, and like I'm just kind of done with my battery being dead at the end of the day. I want to just go on a hike, take a picture, and not have my phone crash. I want to like do a lot of things with these types of stuff. And trust me, by the time it gets to the developer beta, it's already way better than it is, testing anywhere else in the stage. But on top of that, like I'm just, I just want to like, I'm kind of like not, I guess burnt out is one way to say it, but it's not really burnt out. It's more of like, I just made a conscious choice that I want my energy to be preserved, and I'm not going to submit the bugs. If I hit an issue in the beta, I just want to leave that for the people who are very passionate about that right now. And I just want to have nice polished software that I pay for, right, using my phone to be installed so that I can reliably take photos or do whatever I need to do. Because I do find there's like a lot of extra work that needs to be done whenever we're working with betas. So less so. I'm not developing with Xcode or making any iOS apps, which is another big reason why I'm not on the betas. If I was, I'd probably be installing them. Or I'd get a specific machine dedicated for that so that I don't have to deal with it and kind of let that infiltrate the rest of my accounts and everything like that. So yeah, that's another thing. I also recommend checking out a repository by a guy called, what's this? Sentiminmod. My Claude Code setup integrated into Gemini CLI as an architect that reviews solutions and performs audits. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that plays out. I do like stuff that does architecture things. So just really curious. Yeah. You asked because I knew you were at Apple, so fair decision. Yeah. I think if I was like developing heavily with Xcode, I just would have one machine dedicated towards it. But I like having my life very simple and everything kind of works. So that's kind of where I'm at. Speech Analyzer, which is a local AI transcription model. Apple developed which ones come with 26, which is really good. Oh, finally. Yeah. The speech analyzing is not that good depending on, what accent you have or where you come from and what your background is. So do you recommend a specific remote MCP server service over other? Are there minimal differences? I don't. MCP servers, I basically have them off. And the only ones that I toggle on would be Convex, occasionally with Convex, because Convex is already good. All of my code is in my database. So I don't have to have an MCP that goes, talks, and does these requests, comes back. So another huge advantage of using Convex for my backend. Context 7 I tried, and I just get these like random things. I'd rather just give it the URL. Claude Code is really good at reading stuff, so I don't really need that much. The MCP I'm currently experimenting with is repo prompt. One of the advantages that I like about repo prompt is like, and kind of what I'm seeing with this back and forth is the fact that it's going to mostly right now, it really likes to delegate to O3 to go like look through my code base and do these tool calls to grab things out. Because I'm already paying for a Claude Code plan, it doesn't really make sense to me to pay an API cost. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this. A lot of stuff, really, I'm not trying to stuff the context. I treat my context as gold. Anytime you have like a lot more stuff that's filling the context for every type of chat request, and then even in the history, you'll lose out really fast, because if you do all these tool calling and that's all in the chat history, as you keep going for that same request or that same feature build out, unless you compact everything, you're going to have a lot of slop in there, right? You can have a lot of stuff that's in there that starts to rot, and you have to start a new chat, which sucks, right? And you have to rebuild that context again. So I'd rather just have Claude Code go in plan mode, find the relevant context very specifically with my request. And if I don't know, I'll just do what I call like an exploratory prompt. So at the very beginning, I'll just do an exploration. I'll just say, hey, I want to implement this feature. What does this look like in my code base, and where should I be looking at those things? Claude Code would do those things. You grab those types of things and start to kind of reason with it. You can even bring it back into O3, or you can bring it back into Claude, like the web thing, saying, how should I, like, now that you understand what the user was trying to intend, how would you write a prompt to talk to an LLM to write out and execute this feature? And so then Claude Opus will then generate a new prompt that will understand what your original intent was, through that chat history, and then see, what it researched in your code, and then better explain that as a senior engineer. So then you'll want to review that, and you're like, that's how I should be talking to my LLM to output really good stuff. Boom. Like, that's easy. You do that enough times, you probably won't need a lot of these MCPs. I know, like, I like MCP as a protocol. I like MCP as the idea. I like where it's going and its connectors for data. I think that's where it's really more useful. An MCP that connects to Notion, to write stuff into it, to do planning, to read stuff out. As a content creator, that's amazing. Like, to use Notion to connect Claude Code, to grab scripts, to grab transcripts, to grab a lot of my notes, to grab stuff if you're using an Obsidian user, and to reason about them, to reason about your journals, to mimic your writing style. That is, I think, where it's a big use for MCPs, because it has a lot more leeway there, right? For code, I'm like very particular and I'm very like pedantic about trying to keep my context window as focused as possible for my chats. Because once I'm developing a feature, I want to just add more things into that chat and just keep it extremely minimal, compact, and relevant for that feature until I'm pretty much done and I ship it, So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Has been really bad for me and not useful. Yeah. Supabase MCP has been great though. Yeah, I don't use Supabase. Played with Kimi K2, their research. I liked it. Only 5 for a day. Okay, cool. Ray gets it. Context is king in so many ways. Yeah. What is more cost effective? $20 Cursor plan or Claude Code 100 for continuous day to day? Dude, $20 Cursor Pro, $20 Claude Pro plan can get you a long way. If you just want to code with Sonnet and just use that can get you a very long way. Sonnet's really good. And you can go until you hit a limit, and then you can upgrade. You don't have to go to $100. You can just go $20. You can just use Sonnet, just Sonnet only on Claude Code, and cook. Go. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's kind of where it's at. This has been a really awesome AMA, by the way. Yeah, $20 Claude Plus plan. Yeah, solid value. Solid. One of my favorite plans ever. I think it's just amazing what they provide for value there. Yeah, I've been using Sonnet a lot. Yeah. And then you still have access to the web version of Sonnet. So you can pop into Opus. You will burn through some of your credits faster, but to each its own, right? Have you ever tried SuperCloud on top of Claude Code? No. I mean, yes, but no. But like, no, I don't want to. I'm like telling you, like, context for code, you have to be very, like, you have to battle for keeping your context as like lightweight as possible for coding. You know, don't introduce extra rot with these extra MCPs. You can use them initially for planning, but then throw all that away and just create a new chat without them enabled, and then just take everything you've learned from that first prompt using all of your other MCP tools, start a new chat, turn off those MCPs, and then take everything you learned from that chat and just start to cook. Like literally, you'll be so surprised how better your output is. Like you would not be surprised. Oh, somebody did a thumbs up thing, so I'm gonna have to do this little like dance. How do you manage context for microservices? Is it better to use monorepo in Claude, or is it better to use one single repo for a specific service? Dude, I stopped using microservice. I just code with Next.js, bro. Like I'm just an entrepreneur. And if I were to work at a big FANG company, I would just say, no, I'm out of here, bro. No, yeah. How do I manage context for microservices? I think that's kind of why I moved over to Next.js and React and stuff, because of that. Because I don't have to worry about it. You know, I mean, I do worry about it, but then everything's sort of more contained, you know, front end, back end code and stuff. And as far as concerns for data, I use Convex for that reason too, right? It's all TypeScript. Everything's TypeScript, front end, back end. And Convex, like, it's just simple. Like all of the data will live on the back end. And because you're using Convex, whenever you have a front end server, you don't have to worry about state. It creates a WebSocket. So you can have 5 windows open on your front end from the same user, and you'll see the exact same state of whatever the database is because it has a WebSocket back into it. I didn't have to write any infrastructure code. You reduce all this complexity. You don't have to like invalidate state on the front end. You're just literally just saying, hey, database, give me this query. It's just as simple as a query. They take the entire function from that backend, create that as an entire transaction. So if you have multi-step stuff and something messes up in that data to write to the database, it will undo itself without you having to write that code. Bro, I'm telling you, like, y'all need to use some Convex up in here, keep that all in TypeScript, and just cook. Like, that's all you need right now. You're gonna like avoid a lot of code. That's why I'm really big on this workflow. And I have still yet to share more about this, but that's just kind of what I'm so super passionate about. And yeah, I need to show you all some more of that. I think Cursor Pro Plus Claude Code Plans is scary. Yeah. I get 2 hours of coding out of 5 on 20 euros. Sheesh. That's what's up, man. Have you seen Kanban board for coding agents? Do you think we will abstract further away from code like this? I like this idea. I like this exploration of trying to manage your plans and manage your thinking in apps that you can carry with you on the go. I think it's pretty cool. We're seeing some of the first phases of this with background agents and Cursor and their web version and, you know, all the stuff that you can do. So I like where this is going. I prefer using mono repos, to be honest. Yeah. I prefer separate repos actually. So it just depends. I literally have a separate repo for my front end. I have a separate repo for the back end. Part of that is because some of the backend infrastructure I needed to be on Cloudflare, but then I'm migrating that over to Convex. So that's all going to be now like basically one repo, which is much cleaner to me anyways, in some ways. But it's like not a mono repo in the traditional sense where there's all kinds of crazy code. It's like actually less code. The reason it's just literally just one repo that has Convex as a folder that has the database. Super simple. The database is literally written in TypeScript. So I don't have to use any MCPs or API requests to figure out what the data manipulation is happening. Oh my God, so crazy. But yeah, it's so simple. Or simpler is always better, by the way. Have you played with Xano backend? No, I've not. Do you spend a lot of time refactoring code often in your workflow? I do actually privately, yes, because I want to understand what's happening with all of my code and how it's flowing, and then think about it on walks and understand what is my like intended outcome. Because I'm not like all of this infrastructure is already ready to be scaled to millions. I'm just trying to get my app from 0 to first 100 users and then 100 users to 1,000. But then if it goes viral overnight, I'm not really worried about it because it can handle it. Everything in my stack can just scale up easily, right? For the demands, which is super awesome. So a lot of the refactoring is more for me to really understand it and then better see if I can come up with better concerns. And part of that is like the mental energy. So the way I'm treating refactors is like going to the gym. So you go to the gym to lift weights. So at the very beginning, you're not really good, but then as you keep going, you get stronger. So the same thing happens mentally. If you refactor your code, if you look at it, try to think about the data structures, you then get better at figuring out what's happening, right? So then that just helps you with the way you prompt and the way you think about things. So just use that as an exercise. For today, I'm just going to look at the code and see what I can make better for it. Ask the AI agent for an opinion. I don't know, just do that. I tried Kiro, but it's over-engineered. Yeah, see, that's kind of the planning thing that I was talking about for Kiro. Cursor is the GOAT, but monorepo is easier for AI to understand full context. Yeah. I have one huge folder with a backend subfolder. Yeah. Love your content. Very generous. I've learned a lot from you. Hey, man, I really appreciate that. That's so cool. For anyone who wants to support, by the way, I do want to, I should let people know more about this, because my goal right now is to hit my first 100 users. So I have this thing called, if you want to get into the Discord, it's a private Discord, and it's basically through an invite by joining my membership. So if you're interested in joining, I have a thing called, Ray Fernando that you can join, and it's just $6.99. It's called Let Me Cook. My goal is to get to my first 100 members. So for anyone who joins, you'll get to join here, and then you get access to the Discord. There's a post here that you can follow to get access, and that's kind of some of the perks. Obviously, member questions and various things. And so that's a pretty cool way to support the channel. And so far, I've actually just hired my first editor. So he's going to be going through some of my live streams. They're going to be creating a bunch of clips and things. I also have some other content I'm going to do that's pre-recorded, and some of that stuff is going to come out. So if you're a member, you're going to get access to see the videos first before it goes live to the rest of the audience, usually a week before. And then I'm also planning to do some member exclusive, streams as well. So this is kind of a preview of what we would just be doing as members. This AMA style thing is kind of what we would do, just kind of hanging out on the Discord. But it would just be a private session. So I just thought I would do this live to kind of show you, how it is to cook with me and kind of the things that I do. So yeah, you get to check it out. We have about 60 something members. So the price will double once we get our first 100 members. So $6.99 is an amazing steal if you're in the US, for this type of thing. But I definitely appreciate it. I just wanted to keep it very approachable for folks who are early. If you're watching this content right now, you're in one of the early gangs. So I definitely appreciate that. Everyone who's been able to drop in and just share this content with everyone. It's just been really cool. Are you still in Hawaii? Even though I'm repping the Kalapawai market, I'm actually currently in California, and I'm here for the summer. So I'm doing my summer streaming every single day. And then when I go to Hawaii, in the fall, winter, to stay warm and get back into my paddling, trying to get back into paddling and stuff like that, we'll be cooking there. So I try to factor my code once a month. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's awesome. Anyone use Raycast? No. But yeah, everyone's kind of cooking in the chat right now. Everyone needs to sub to Ray and support Ray. We need more quality creators like him. Man, I appreciate that. That's so cool. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. So far, I'm supposed to be meeting my friend at 10 o'clock. It's currently 9:59. I got to send him a message. I was supposed to be out of here 15 minutes ago, but I got so caught up. But I appreciate everyone's support. I will see you tomorrow, right around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Daylight Time. So if you want to see more like this is my summer of streaming. Make sure you drop in. If you have any questions, we're going to be taking a look at, I don't know what. The topic is always fresh every day. It could be around cursor agents or anything. If you remember, just feel free to drop in the Discord and let me know what you want to see. I want to do this, if you're a member, you have the first priority. So just ask me saying, hey, Ray, I really, really, really want you to take a look at cursor background agents, and I want to see more of that. And we'll cook with that live. People who support me, y'all are real ones for real. Guess what? Who became a member? Retropunk AI. Thank you so much for becoming a member. You are the real MVP. I'm supposed to be out of my stream, but I want to make sure I say thank you so much for becoming a member. This support really does help a lot, and it means a lot. And it's actually helping, other creators in the economy as well to kind of, help them with the video editing. And this is really, really cool. I really appreciate the membership. So if you look through the post, there'll be some instructions on how to get access to the Discord. Once you send me the information with the details there, I'll get you in the Discord, and then we'll be cooking there for sure. Definitely. Yeah. Viz Live Studio as well. Sans Taman. Appreciate it. Yeah. Appreciate everyone who's been able to tune in. I will have timestamps when this video is done. It's going to go through some processing. And if you aren't familiar, you can also check out raytranscribes.com. I'm going to add that feature in. Everything that I'm currently doing for my videos as far as transcribing, I actually like to get the transcripts and put them into my live streams. And I discovered that this is a really big hack. You can actually get found just like the big channels by simply putting in your transcripts. This is the biggest SEO hack available. I had to make sure I like got my app out there. So I'm going to create a whole blog post about this, but like I detailed about this in Ray Transcribes. If you use the code Ray Cooks at checkout, this code will get you $15 off. It's just like a one-time $15 off. And so, yeah, basically you can get into the beta for $5. And so in the beta, I'll be launching a lot of features and so forth, but it's already an extremely generous amount of minutes to use. So you can transcribe a lot of content, podcasts and all these things. You'll get the timestamps, you get all that stuff. And then you'll also see me build it here live, which is really cool. So any feature requests you have coming up, let me know. But I do have the timestamps that's going to be coming up. That's kind of what I'm using for generating the timestamps for these videos. So you can see all of my live streams have timestamps, and you can go back and kind of learn from them. So this video will have timestamps. If you have any questions, you can kind of go back in time and find them. I also have some other stuff for AI, like blog posts and batch uploading. All of this stuff is coming in, YouTube link support. So that's going to be, we're going to definitely be cooking. Also, if you're not satisfied, I just give you your money back. We're grown ass adults, and I treat you like one because, this is helping me fund me as far as like building this app. As a content creator, I feel like more content creators need to know about these types of things. And I make these tools because I'm very passionate. And as I'm making these tools, you get to learn about AI with me. So that's kind of like the biggest part. It's like, hey, I'm making something to help me and other content creators, but at the same time, you get to learn by watching my content. So like this feedback loop is like the greatest thing ever. And I love the community and everyone who's been able to join. We have a really special number of folks who have been able to join. And if you are so generous, even if you can't afford the $6.99, sharing this with a friend does go a really long way, because then other people become more aware of what we're doing here and the community that we're building together. So I definitely appreciate that. All right, folks, ladies and gentlemen, I got to head out, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, y'all.